There are only 2 teams ahead of Penn State in the polls, and the Nittany Lions could not care less. Their focus remains on beating the Badgers in Madison.
We're going to need to take another step this week because these road games are challenging.
Start slow, finish fast. That's been the formula for PSU's defense in some of this season's games. How they're adjusting and locking up opponents after the break. And the final bye week allows some extra time on the recruiting trail, where Coach Franklin lands on a Friday night and catches some of the game. It's time for Nittany Game Week. Hello everyone and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski alongside former Nittany Lions coaches Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley. Buckle up, here we go. Penn State undefeated, ranked 3rd in the country, rested after their second bye week and ready for 6 consecutive Saturdays of Big Ten football. Not going to be easy.
Well, hopefully 7 consecutive Saturdays for the Big Ten championship game. But listen, got to get through the next 6 weeks. Trip to Wisconsin at night is fun, but interesting, and then there's a game the week right after that everybody wants to talk about that we will not mention. Gonna be fun.
Wouldn't you say Camp Randall's interesting and then fun, rather than fun and interesting?
Well, it's fun if you win.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's not so fun.
Results dependent, absolutely.
Yes.
And really the point is it's not easy at all.
They've got a great opportunity ahead of them. I really like this football team. In all phases, they've got it going. One important thing now is you got to stay healthy.
All right, we'll see if they can do that in that 6 consecutive game stretch. It's going to be an exciting stretch, and it begins in Madison at Camp Randall versus the Badgers. We discuss what the offense is doing that should continue to work all year, how the defense is shutting down opponents after halftime, and the intangibles necessary to make the next month and a half a very special ride in our opening drive. Let's talk about some things they're doing on offense that should be successful all year. Starts with mixing the tempo. Never know when the Nittany Lions are going to hurry up and run a second play right after the first. A prime example of this happens in the Bowling Green game when they rush to the line of scrimmage, they catch the Falcons off guard, and Drew Aller connects with the wide open Omari Evans for the touchdown. Another integral part down the stretch could be Nick Singleton catching passes out of the backfield. He's a matchup problem for any defense.
Well, look, everybody's going to pay an awful lot of attention to number 44, Tyler Warren, no question about it. So you're going to have to find some other guys to make some plays in the pass game. That's going to come down to your wideouts. And teams have really started to do a good job against Penn State's run game. Look for them to try and improve that as well as you go ahead.
The one thing, I hope they spend a lot of time defending Tyler Warren and wasting their time there, because Penn State has some great athletes that I don't think people realize how good they are yet, but they're going to be a big part of this offense as we move forward.
And I'm interested to see what other wrinkles Coach Kotelnicki actually throws in the second half. And of course, Tyler Warren is going to be a featured part of game plans. He prefers to share the credit, though, with the rest of his position group.
What we're asked of us, it's a lot of different stuff, but it's just, our job at the end of the day, and the same stuff we practice every week. So just staying the course and being the best tight ends we can be in our room is what we focus on each week.
Now, this play has been the focus of a lot of talk. Amazing versatility from Warren on this specific play. Fun, very creative play design from Coach K.
But on the defensive side of the ball, I think you look at the halftime and what they're doing numbers-wise after halftime, and with the tablets, they're making good adjustments, Tom. And the slow starts is something that may hurt them if they're not.
Yeah, they don't want to. With what's coming up on the schedule, they want to get out of the gate fast, because they do not want to fall behind a team and then be trying to play catch up. And they have the opportunity with the guys they have. I'm sure they've talked about it a bunch, and look for a great start coming up soon.
Early on penalties costing the defense. They've cleaned that up in recent weeks and are working as a cohesive unit, especially in the final 30 minutes of games.
We have an accountability system is set as a defense, but when things happen like that, we just gotta look at the next play. Can't ponder on the flag because it's a bad play, but next play is ahead of us. And we just had to finish, keep doing what we did, and do it better than we did in the first half.
Next challenge for Kobe King and company comes under the lights at Camp Randall, and that leads us to another conversation. Of course, special teams plays a huge role in a team's overall success. Whether it's a Big Ten title or going for a national championship, you must possess certain intangibles. Great leadership from the coaching staff and veteran players are examples. What kind of intangibles have you guys seen from championship caliber squads?
You need intelligence, you need selflessness, and at some point you're going to need a big decision or a big injection by a head football coach like Oregon did the end of that Ohio State game, where a guy does something strategically that changes the trajectory of the game.
We'll have a lot of these answers soon with Wisconsin this weekend, followed by Ohio State and Washington at home in Beaver Stadium. Up next, driving a road to victory in Madison. Our coaches break down the Badgers and give us some things to look for under the lights. Nittany Game Week returns after this.
Roadmap to Victory is sponsored by the R&R family of companies.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. They've only given up 54 points in 4 Big Ten matchups, and 38 came in one game at USC. Wisconsin's on a 3-game win streak, keeping all 3 of those opponents to single digits. Coach Bradley, Coach Paterno, Luke Fickell has Wisconsin hitting their stride at midseason. What's it going to take to beat the Badgers under the lights at Camp Randall?
Well, it's going to take a lot of things. It's going to take a great effort, a lack of turnovers, but it's going to take a better start than they've had in previous years against bye weeks. Since 2014, against Big Ten teams coming off a bye week, Penn State 3-7. They've lost 4 of the last 5 against Big Ten teams. The one that really jumps out is 1-3 against unranked Big Ten teams when Penn State's coming off a bye. That's got to improve.
But it's at Camp Randall Stadium. You better get off to a good start and get that crowd out of it, because that will be a wild place on Saturday night.
Well, Todd mentioned the defense. Let's talk about defense. It's been solid all year. It's a top 20 defense in a number of categories, especially against the pass. The run defense is one area where Penn State may be able to get something done. And then let's talk about a little bit beyond those numbers. Red zone TD defense, only giving up touchdowns 47% of the time, best in the Big Ten. And then their 2 safeties are going to be the matchup to watch against Tyler Warren, and we'll talk about why that is. If you had the Warren Commission for the Kennedy assassination, they came out with a magic bullet that defied physics and the laws of physics. Tyler Warren defies the laws of physics. Great route running. Might be the most decisive guy with the ball in his hand as a runner as well, and just the mental ability. And how is Wisconsin going to try and take that away, Tom? Let's talk about their basic defense. And like you said, they're going to do some things on the outside, try and put some pressure on those guys. And then you like how they're positioned in terms of holding them up and having safety help over the top.
They're going to definitely get a jam on him and know exactly where. There's going to be some opportunities in this game for the outside receivers are going to get one-on-one coverage all by themselves.
Yeah.
They're going to have to win that battle. No
question. That's been a challenge all year. Now, let's take a look at how they approach things defensively. The safety back here is in another time zone. I'm almost, he's off the screen, but they're going to be +1. So no matter how many people you have in there, they like to have an extra guy around the ball to take care of the run game, especially with, we mentioned Tyler Warren, to be in there, and it's designed to eliminate big plays and force mistakes. And here, Tom, here's one example right here. He heads down there, throws the ball, they get the turnover. Next thing you know, you've given the ball.
Yeah, I would like to play that position back there. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, you're all by yourself. You
don't have to come downhill and make tackles. It's good to go.
No one to talk to. And that safety last year had 120 tackles in the season. Let's switch over to the offense, scoring offense. Now, they're just okay offensively for the season. But let's take a look at inside the numbers, the last 3 weeks. We've talked, they've hit their stride. Massive increase in scoring, massive increase in total offense and passing. And what's been the biggest thing? Talk about some of the personnel. Quarterback is playing well. The running back has taken over to 2 outside wideouts to go with the inside guy, have made big plays. And they played Purdue, Rutgers, and Northwestern. 2 solid defenses. Purdue, everybody seems to. Tom, when you're a penetrating defense, the gap run scheme gives you a problem, doesn't it?
It sure does, and that's the one thing that's you're going to watch this run game. That's the play you've got to stop.
Right, and they're going to pull the guard, pull the backside tight end, and create gashes. As you come up the field, they're going to use your leverage against you and try and create holes and get north and south. Now, off that gap run scheme, they like the RPO. So if you're a linebacker, Tom, you're seeing the guard pull. You're seeing the same thing you just saw in that last play. So what are you naturally going to do here?
You're coming.
Yeah, you're coming downfield. So now
you're coming
when they
downhill.
step up, That quarterback's looking to throw that ball right in behind him, and it's been very, very effective this year for them, and especially, as we mentioned, the last 3 weeks. Nice job there. And then finally, now, if your safety's starting to play run and help on the slot receiver, who's been their best receiver, the last couple weeks you've seen emerge outside, one-on-one, throw it over the top, beating corners, 24.3 yards per catch out of number 8. Number 2's been a real factor for them as well, and they're able to throw that ball downfield. Tom, that's going to be a matchup to watch for.
It's going to be a big matchup because, as you know, these safeties get very antsy versus that run game. They want to bring it. Hey, let's go. Let's go. Help us. We need your help.
Special teams, one last thing. Really good kickoff return, but Penn State likes to kick it out of the end zone, so that shouldn't be a factor. Net punting, they're very good. And block kicks, Tom. We talk about this all the time, how important these things are. And if you look at how do these things happen, you got to block the inside gaps. You got to stay stout. They've got big, tall guys in here who've gotten their hands on a ball, and then they bring this guy off the edge. And, Tom, how much time they got to get that off?
Less than 1.25. You'd like it about 1.21.
Exactly. But that's going to be something to watch for when Penn State lines up the timing. They blocked 3 kicks, 5th in the country, do a great job coming off the edge and in the middle.
Well, thanks, coaches. Penn State enters this game in Madison as the 3rd-ranked team in the country. Some people were disappointed, even a little surprised the Nittany Lions didn't slide up a notch to number 2 after once beaten Georgia took out the number 1 team, Texas, in Austin. The Bulldogs leapfrogged PSU into the 2 spot, but Coach Franklin says that's fine. There's no rankings talk anyway inside the building.
We just focus on trying to get better. And, I think so far our guys have done a pretty good job of that. And we're going to have to do that again this week because, coming up, we're going to be going on the road, night game, and another tough environment.
They opened the 2021 season with the victory in Madison. That was a noon kickoff, this one under the lights. As for the bye week, Coach Franklin and his staff take advantage of the extra time to recruit. Here he is at Central York High School in York County, PA. The Panthers playing Bishop Hoban from Ohio. Coach is an active participant. The throw comes to the sidelines. Look at the catch. Good form, looks it into the hands all the way and secures the ball immediately. Well done, Coach Franklin. He says, I still got it. Watches for a little bit longer, and then it's back in the helicopter and into the sky to land at another recruiting destination. We're going to step away for a moment. Our Impact interview is next on the schedule. University of Wisconsin legend Barry Alvarez joins us to discuss this matchup with Penn State. He also tells us what the night atmosphere will be like for Drew Aller and company to deal with when Nittany Game Week continues.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. This week's guest really doesn't need an introduction in the college football world, but I would like to add he's a Western Pennsylvania native. He played at Nebraska. His coaching career took him to stops at Iowa and Notre Dame before cementing his legacy as the godfather of Wisconsin football. It's Hall of Famer Barry Alvarez. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. We always appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Always fun to be with you guys.
Okay, so we got some good stuff for you, but if you haven't noticed, there's been a few changes in college football in recent years. This is our Impact interview, so I'd like to start there with the kind of the rapid and radical changes that have happened in the last couple of years. What are your thoughts on the changes and maybe the ones that have impacted the game the most?
Well, probably the biggest one, I've always been in favor of doing whatever you can for the players. But when basically you're paying players now, it never was supposed to reach the recruitment of players, but that's exactly where it's gone, and you knew that's where it would go. That bothers me, and I think it changes the game, and I think that's the root of the issues that we have right now.
Wisconsin started out 2-2, but they've really seemed the last week, through 3 weeks, to find their foundation on offense with a veteran offensive lineman. The play of the quarterback's really gotten better. The running game has gotten better. How much do you think that's a factor, and can that really carry over against a really good Penn State defense this week?
Yeah, they've improved, and that's what you always look for. They lost to some very good teams. That Alabama team's a nice team. But I think they're playing very well right now. As you mentioned, Camp Randall's a tough place to play at night. I think it'll be a good football game.
First off, I got to tell you, everybody at Burgettstown, we've increased our viewership. I told them we were having you on the show, so I know we're going to take over Burgettstown for sure. But, hey, here's my question for you. The combination of that tough Wisconsin defense, and it's a night game at Camp Randall, which could cause a lot of big challenges for a road team in Madison. How big a factor can that be this week?
It can be a huge factor. I was just listening to an interview the other day after a game where coaches and the players were talking about how the crowd noise affected, as you know, if you want to change plays, any communication that an offense has, it can really be affected. And so, you want to take advantage of anything you have. And when you're playing at home at our place, I'm sure, our fans will be into the game. It's a big game against a great team, a team with a tremendous reputation. And so it should be a factor.
Note to Penn Staters, one of the biggest compliments you mentioned that you received came from Joe Paterno. And I was wondering if you could share that story with the Penn Staters and the Nittany Lions fans on our show.
I'm trying to think what it was. Well, first of all, Joe and I had he was good to me as a young head coach, even when I was an assistant coach. He always treated me right. And when he came into the league, I kind of took him under my arm and try to help him a little bit and give him some suggestions and help him through the league. He was a very important person to me and someone that I really respected.
Barry, your grandson, Jake Ferguson, has had a great start to his career as a tight end in Dallas. Penn State has a big-time tight end in Tyler Warren this year. It seems in the last couple of years that position has really elevated in importance in the pro game and the college game. Now, being a defensive, a guy who really prided himself on great defense, what kind of matchup problems are those guys now presenting for people scheming defensively against guys like that?
Yeah, well, the position's an important position because it's a factor in both phases. You need a good tight end to have a good running game. Who do you match them up with in the throwing game? You put a strong safety. A linebacker can't run with them in most cases. Strong safety probably isn't big enough. Jake and your guy, they're both 6'5", 6'6". They're hard to match up with in the passing game.
What Joe and you used to talk about all the time was how fat and slow you were. That's why he didn't recruit you.
Oh, hear that? That's my wife wanted to remind me, but that's what Joe used to say. The reason he didn't recruit me because I had a fat ass and I was too slow.
You know what? That is now the greatest moment in the history of this show, by far.
And no wonder you would want to forget that.
I didn't forget it.
Hey, Coach. Hey, being a Western Pennsylvania guy who built tough Big Ten teams, what are your thoughts on the Big Ten adding those 4 West Coast teams to the conference?
You know what? Quite frankly, I like it. I think it'd be fun. It'd be a pain for guys traveling, particularly East Coast, going all the way out there to play. But still, I always looked at the experience for the players. For a player, that grew up, let's say, in Western Pennsylvania, the next thing you're out there in L.A. You're playing at the Rose Bowl. You're playing UCLA at the Rose Bowl, or and that type thing. I think that's a great experience, and so that's the way college football has gone. I think when things like that happen, I look for the positive things in it, and that's one of the positives that I see.
Always enjoy some time with Wisconsin legend Barry Alvarez. We need to step aside from the TV show for a quick break. Make sure you go to NittanyGameWeek.com for the entire conversation with Coach Alvarez, along with other web-exclusive content like our depth chart and Nittany Game Week podcast. Almost time to hand out our scrap medal. This guy comes up big in a pair of crucial situations for the Nittany Lions on the road. Why they will need all of his skills in the second half of the season. We're heading into the final minutes on Nittany Game Week.
The Nittany Game Week depth chart is brought to you by Burke and Bradley Orthopedics. Located in Pittsburgh, Burke and Bradley Orthopedics is a comprehensive sports medicine practice, providing patients with the most current and innovative approaches in diagnosis and treatment. Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are In, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit thewearein.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
Out this week's scrap metal. Tom, here's a guy who's come home to the Keystone State and came up huge in one of the pivotal moments of the season.
It's Julian Fleming. He's a Southern Columbia grad, was the #1 recruit in Pennsylvania for the class of 2020, #3 in the country, still had some eligibility left, and decided to come back home and transfer from Ohio State, and the Nittany Lions are sure glad he did. Against UST, Fleming caught not one, but 2 critical 4th-down passes to move the chains on the game-tying drive that allowed the team to win the game in overtime.
Now, last week's question was which tight end, Penn State tight end, finished 4th in the Heisman, becoming the first tight end to finish in the top 5 in the modern era. It went to Ted Kwolek. And we had 2 winners, Darryl Sterrick from Harrison City, Pennsylvania, out in Western PA, and Paul McCrone from Duncannon, Pennsylvania. They'll both be getting copies of the book Blitz sent to them. Now, this week's question, we're taught Penn State's going out to Wisconsin as a top 10 team. When was the last time that Penn State went out there as a top 10 team and played at Camp Randall, and what was the result?
Yeah. Not even just a top 10, they're a top 3 team in the country right now, ranked 3rd. Nittany Game Week, much more than a television show. Make sure you check out our depth chart at nittanygameweek.com. The depth chart is a collection of businesses that support the show and provide our viewers with places to eat, travel and shop, or professional services owned and operated by people with a special connection to Penn State. Always more convenient when you can find everything in one place. For us, that location, nittanygameweek.com. Watch full episodes after they air from this year and our previous seasons. Impact interviews and other web-exclusive content like the Nittany Game Week podcast. It's all waiting for you to consume at nittanygameweek.com. And if you're heading to the Wisconsin game, make sure to submit your pride picks on our website and show us your spirit. For Jay and Tom, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We will see you next time.